pain of shame. We often make ourselves so wrong when we experience shame. Shame has played a massive role in my life. Shame has debilitated me. And today I want to share with you the one thing that really keeps us in shame. Now, I say the one thing, but it's like a large root that is just deep into the ground. But there are many roots that stem from that. And for me, in my own personal experience and the work that I do with so many, I found that this one root that keeps us vested in shame, keeps those stories going in our head, keeps that sense of self-worth low, and that projection into the outside world, nasty. It's defensive. It's isolating. I know when I experience shame, it's like I'm going down this infinite whirlpool, this drain that's just moving down and there's no end to it. And because there feels like there's no end, the intensity, the pain, the fear, it feels even more and it compounds. And simultaneously for me, when I'm experiencing shame, and I'll explain what that is in a moment in the most simplest way, it's that drain effect that I'm just going down this drain deeper and deeper, but there's no end to it. I don't know where the end is. I don't know what's next. So I feel like I'm stuck in this twilight zone, like limbo. And simultaneously, I feel myself energetically almost becoming thicker, like these thick walls are pushing out and pushing people away and pulling me back at the same time. And this thick, energetic wall is impenetrable. And there's this disillusion that comes with shame, this pain, this I am wrong. That's what shame is. We internalize the choices that we make, and we think that not only we're at fault or that we're responsible, but we are that mess up. Not only have we messed up, but we are that mess up. Now, often that comes from a place of deep fear. Comes from a place of deep fear of being seen. So the one thing that keeps us in our shame is the past. That's basically what it is. It's as simple as that. Our past keeps us locked into shame cycles. Let me give you an example. Let me give you a few examples. So for me as a child, my true self, my voice, my expression, it was judged a great deal. At least that was my perception. So the parts of me that I would bring into the world that I thought were safe, i.e. my mother, my father, my immediate family, teachers, friends, I felt that was neglected. I felt that was rejected. And there was humiliation associated with that. And there was a freeze effect that would take place. That translated to not only am I doing something wrong because I'm not being appreciated or accepted by these people that I look up to, that I want to feel safe with, but I made it wrong. I made me wrong. And that's where the complex develops. That's where the substructures of the personality begin to form. Our neurology begins to shift. The way we see ourselves psychologically and emotionally changes. And now all of a sudden we're walking on eggshells and we're not confident in who we are. And now we're tentative. We are apprehensive, pensive to speak our truth. Because what if that's rejected again? So then we wear a mask. And what we'll generally do is experiment with the masks that we wear. We'll wear a mask after a mask after a mask. So we will do and be and say and think and feel what we think others think is right. What others feel is good for us. But the issue is there that one, we're guessing. And two, we become confused and we lose our true authentic sense of self. What's also happening is we're appeasing others. We're playing to the tune of someone else's instrument. And that doesn't feel good. So we start to build resentment. Now, depending on your environment, like mine, I grew up in a very volatile, aggressive environment. That confusion and resentment began to turn to anger, rage, aggression, fucking tension and frustration in my body. Now, for a long time, I was in this freeze state where I couldn't feel, I couldn't be, I didn't understand myself, and I was just very timid. But that wore thin. And it wore thin again because of the environment that I was in and because of the frustration and resentment I was accumulating in my body. And I wasn't releasing it. And so coming into a teenager with raging hormones, explosion, rage into the world. You know, I was someone that was bullied, I turned into a bully. And I was so confused in my demeanor. And I took this behavior into my adult world. Now, to hide and mask the shame, I wore more masks. I pretended I was okay. I had this false bravado. I also engaged in activities that gave me short-term gratification. Alcohol, sex, pornography, quick wins, gambling, making money, going into high-risk situations, whether that's culturally or whether that's in business. Something that would stimulate me really quick to avoid feeling these very unpleasant feelings of I am not enough. Because that's what the shame does. It makes you feel that you are not enough. And shame isn't this entity that's possessed you, but in a sense it sort of is. Because it takes over your whole nervous system, your whole idea of who am I? And you don't know because for so many years as a kid, developmentally, you've been playing to the tune of someone else's fiddle. And you've just lost that beat that is you. That musical sequence that is you. Your authentic expression in the world. It's been lost. And so for so many years, shame debilitated me. And I'll share something with you. It wasn't that long ago where I was just confronted with a conversation. And it wasn't really an intense conversation. However, the conversation triggered something deep within me. And in that moment, I froze, I reverted, I regressed back to being that young little boy that didn't know what to do, where to be, where to go, how to look, how to feel. Now, I navigated that situation fairly easily, but that was because I've had some practice. However, that trigger in the conversation where I was being questioned, because I would be questioned a lot as a child, I was being questioned, my integrity, my morality was being questioned in these moments. It regressed me back to I am not enough. And so for literally 24 hours, I was like a stunned mullet. I was a fish out of water. I was just like that. And because I don't like feeling like that, because I associate that freeze mechanism with a sign of weakness, that I'm weak. And I don't like that because I vowed that I would never be weak because of what I experienced as a kid. The put downs, the less than, the physical abuse. And so when I feel that weakness, how I generally deal with it in my shadow expression, my unhealthy extreme self, is with aggression, with anger. So for 24 hours or so, I was just walking around angry, protecting myself and not wanting to feel the shame, not wanting to feel that feeling of I am not enough. So men will often do that and substitute, not just men of course, but substitute that feeling of sadness and shame and I'm not enough and low self-worth with anger and aggression. Because one, that's a conditioned response. It's an easier outlet. It's a big feeling and it gives us a sense of control. So when I'm angry, I have a sense of control. But remember, I'm going down that drain and pushing out those walls. So I'm isolating myself, which makes me further angry, which reinforces that story of people can't see me. But I'm isolating myself. I'm pushing people away. I'm whirling down that drain. I'm fucking angry. I'm being short. I'm being not very social. I'm not being pleasant to be around. I'm pushing people away. And it's reinforcing that story. I'm not enough. I'm not healthy enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I fucked up. Therefore, it's my fault. I'm a fuck up. And that's the dialogue. And we go down this whirlpool and we push these walls out. And that's my experience of shame. And yeah, I still experience that. Yes, I'm far better at shifting it. I'm aware of it. Sometimes I'm just stuck in that awareness and I know that I'm in shame and I'm cycling and I'm spiraling, but I can't get out of it, or at least I think I can't. And for me, what breaks it is compassion, non-judgment towards self. Breath work really helps, slowing down the breath, deepening the breath, but really slow. Asking myself, what do I want to be? What do I want to express? How do I want to feel right now? Moving towards love, compassion, moving towards self-acceptance, moving towards care for self, moving towards or away from the stories that once were formed in my being, in my body, in my mind, in my neurology, in my behavior, in my psychology, my spirituality, that told me I was not enough. And reevaluating those stories in the moment, creating new ones. What's another possibility? Asking the question, because the quality of the questions we ask ourselves really lead to the quality of the lives that we live. So asking the question of, what story do I want to tell myself right now? I have a choice to continue to whirl down and push those walls out, or be different. But that shame is so debilitating and paralyzing. It comes over me like an entity. And I see that in people as well. And they revert back to childlike behaviors, or behaviors cultivated during developmental years that are locked in, but they're malleable. We can shift them, but we have to begin with awareness. We have to begin with a trust and a faith in ourselves. And it helps, I will say this, it helps when we have people in our lives that see us and don't judge us. Because what they're doing is they're breaking that old pattern. They're breaking that old habit. They're breaking that story that you told yourself that no one can hear you, no one can see you, no one can feel you, no one understands you. They break that story by being present without judgment, without needing anything, and without attacking you, without telling you you're wrong, or without asking you to be someone else. So having those people in your life can help you break that vicious cycle of shame that keeps you isolated, keeps you lonely, alone. I spent so many years being surrounded by people but feeling alone, feeling never understood, because that was the story I was telling myself, because that was the experience that I had, that I thought was real, that I thought all there was and there is nothing else. And that isn't true. So your opportunity is to break that story, break that cycle. It begins with how you see yourself. And it begins with accepting all of you and telling yourself all of you is welcome. That is the gateway that accesses all those parts. Because when you stop breaking, when you stop dividing your own self, when you stop saying this part of me is good and this part of me is bad, and when you stop doing that and you just blend it and you say all of me is welcome and all of me is here and all of me is quote unquote good, then you open the possibility to acceptance, compassion, self-care, seeing yourself, becoming self-reliant. Because then you're not dividing and segregating and fracturing yourself and avoiding those parts and numbing drugs, alcohol, workaholism, TV, you name it, sex. I had such deep sex compulsions, love compulsions, sex addictions, quick fix, short-term gratification. When you stop doing that and you stop compartmentalizing these parts of you and you bring it all into one place and say, this is me, that opens the gate to and the door to seeing yourself whole and fully. And that's the beginning stage of breaking the cycle of deep shame. Power and blessings to you. I'll see you soon.